Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. In the last couple of days, a lot of important events as well as the news discussions have happened regarding the events that have taken place regarding doctor protest. The protest started or erupted as a result of gruesome murder of a doctor in a hospital in Kolkata. And after that, many doctor organizations and across India, there were protests conducted, and as a result of this, there were two very important events that have taken place yesterday as well as today. The first one is Government of India has categorically ruled out any kind of a central government law which shall be used to protect the healthcare workers. And the second one, today itself, Supreme Court of India, after taking the suo motu cognizance of the case or the event that has happened, has issued certain guidelines and has announced setting up of a national task force. Now let's understand what are the important points here. Point number one, Government of India yesterday has given a statement and it has given an explanation saying that there are more than 26 states as well as union territories which already have a law, provisions of which can be utilized to punish the offenders, or let's say the people who will commit violence or threaten the healthcare workers. And as such, the health as well as the law and order, because both of them are under the state list, the central government will not be implementing any central government law as of now. In addition to this, understand the point here, central government back in the year 2019 had proposed a bill under which they provided certain provisions to protect healthcare workers. And one more bill in the year 2022 was proposed, but both of these bills have been shelved by the union government, citing that there are other laws which will have provisions or which already have provisions to take care of healthcare workers. And in addition to this, the provisions are already implemented in the state government laws to protect healthcare workers. But having said so, the union government also has given certain guidelines for the hospitals. Those hospitals which will come under the union government, if they want to employ marshals, if they want to deploy the marshals, they can send the request to the Government of India. Based on their assessment, the permission can be provided. In addition to this, Government of India has also stated that in the hospitals under the government, the number of security personnel will be increased by 25%. So this is one side of the discussion regarding the protection that is being announced by the Government of India for the healthcare workers in India. In addition to this, like I said earlier, Supreme Court of India earlier took the suo motu cognizance of the murder of the healthcare worker or the doctor in Kolkata, and today it has issued certain very important guidelines. The first very important point that the Supreme Court of India noted was they will have to provide a safe work environment for the women, and this is very important. If this kind of a safe workplace environment is not provided, obviously you are going to have an impact where the women workers will stay away from the work, and that is going to have an impact on their fundamental right. And in order to provide a safe working environment, and if you are reading newspapers, you will also know that a very famous economist, Geeta Gopinath, day before yesterday, she has given a statement where she categorically states that the female labor force participation rate in India is very poor. It is somewhere around 37%, whereas the male labor force participation is much higher. One way to ensure that more and more women will participate and contribute to the growth of the economy is to provide a safe working environment. So Supreme Court of India now says a committee will be set up. Government of India has to set up a committee, or Supreme Court of India has ordered establishment of a committee having 9 members. and these are the members who will be part of this committee. In addition to these 9 members, it will also include the certain number of ex officio members. These are the ex officio members, that is from the central government. These 5 members along with the 9 members will look into certain, let's say, important areas, and recommendations shall be provided. A stipulated time period of 2 months has been given by the Supreme Court of India, within which the committee has to look into all the areas and give a recommendation, and before that, within a span of 3 weeks, certain short report has to be submitted by the committee. Now, what are the important areas where the committee will be looking at, and ultimately what are we trying to achieve? What would be our objective through the committee? The Chief Justice of India has stated that the committee will be looking into the safety as well as the well-being of medical professionals, and the CJI has also outlined that it will prepare an action plan which will help us to prevent gender-based violence, and this is very, very important. As per various estimates, the healthcare professionals, up to 75% of the healthcare professionals in India have faced violence or the threat at one or the other point of time. And in this situation, generally it has been seen that it is the relatives of the patients who are generally involved in threatening or causing violence or harming the healthcare professionals. So, gender-based violence shall be addressed and also will ensure a dignified working conditions for the interns, residents as well as non-resident doctors. So, the committee will be looking into all of these. Now, what are the important areas where the recommendations shall be provided? Areas of emergency room may need additional security. We might have to provide additional security for the emergency room. Baggage screening needed to prevent arms from entering into the hospitals. Couple of months ago, there was one person who was in an inebriated state. He was in no control of his senses. He entered into a clinic, or let's say the hospital, and harmed the lady doctor who was working there in the state of Kerala. And the doctor passed away, was murdered because of this inebriated patient who harmed the doctor. So, henceforth, the government will also ensure that certain screening process would be implemented to prevent arms from entering into the hospitals. Of course, the committee will give recommendations regarding this. Not allowing persons beyond a limit if they are not patients. Like I said earlier, Indian Medical Association has stated that most of the times the harm or the threatening, threats which are given to the doctors or the healthcare professionals generally do come from the patient's relatives. So, now we will also look at how many numbers of relatives shall be allowed along with the patient into hospital. Security to manage crowd, have rest rooms for doctors and gender neutral spaces for resting of doctors as well as nurses. In fact, this event that has taken place, or this gruesome murder that took place in Kolkata, the doctor there was on a 36-hour shift, and because she was so tired and there were no proper resting places given to the doctors in this hospital, she had to go to this place where the murder took place. Next, areas which need biometrics and facial recognition, proper lighting of all areas, installation of CCTVs in all the places, transport from 10 PM to 6 AM for medical professionals. These are also very, very important. Conducting workshops for handling grief and crisis, quarterly audits of institutional safety measures, establishing police force commensurate with footfall. Reason being, the medical associations which represent doctors have been demanding that Government of India notify the hospitals as safe areas or safe places, just on the lines of central government offices or let's say the airports, where there is a lot of security provided, which the security can be used to quell any kind of, let's say, unrest or any kind of, let's say, disturbances that can be caused. POSH Act applies to medical establishment, prevention of sexual sexual harassment at workplaces, POSH Act will be applicable. Internal Complaints Committee shall be established to be constituted or established. That will also be recommended. Helpline number to be there for emergency for medical professionals. So these are some of the areas on which the committee is expected to give recommendations, and please understand, once the recommendations are provided, certain time period will also be provided to the healthcare institutions to implement all of these recommendations, not just in letter but also in spirit. So these are the two very important news events or the news articles that are there in the current affairs regarding the Government of India as well as the Supreme Court of India providing protection to the healthcare workers. Now, before I wind up, I just want to give you my personal opinion here. Generally, whenever these kind of, let's say, the gruesome murders or attacks take place on women, on certain sections of the society, etc., lot of measures are announced. But many of the times, the measures will not be very effective, so the implementation is lacking. We need to ensure that same thing will not be repeated. In fact, Supreme Court of India also stated that we do not want to wait for another murder to happen when we will take the cognizance and when we will start moving things around. So we need to ensure that the regulations or the provisions are implemented very, very effectively. But much more importantly, it's a time for introspection. We need to ask ourselves, how do we change the situation? How do we make the society much better? How do we treat women with respect, with humility, etc., etc. In fact, I am reminded of a dialogue in a movie where a scholar is harassed and the scholar commits suicide. It's a woman scholar, by the way. And in the suicide letter, she writes one statement: my birth was my mistake. We need to ensure that the women will not feel in that way. That's it from my side. Take care. Thanks a lot. If you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it now. Thank you. Have a great day.